And we are now live and recording, everybody. Well, welcome everyone. And again, we're so excited to connect with you on Connect and Make an Impact, our team call, our weekly team call that happens every Monday night at 8 p.m. Eastern time. And we're calling it the 2-minute drill. Gabe, can you explain that real quick?
It's just a hurry up offense. We all know the National Football League and really the game is depending on it. They put the ball in the playmaker's hands. It's just a way to score at a faster pace. So we take that principle and put it into our principle, and that's working to get the rank advancements coming faster, to become a playmaker. So we thought it would be a good, we'll be able to marry it together.
You know what I think of when I think of 2-minute drill is when I have like 2 minutes till I got to go live, or 2 minutes to get that project done, and that adrenaline rush. And oh my gosh, we got to get it done fast. And I've got 2 minutes, and that's the feeling I always get when I have the 2-minute drill, or if we're wrapping up a month with that kind of energy.
And it all has to work together, right? We all have to work together to make that become successful.
Well, we want to start off with a story I've shared before on our Golden Nuggets. When you may or may not have seen it, so I'm going to recap it. We have a rescue dog. She's a golden lab, big dog, about 80 pounds, big chest. And what we did about 7 years ago is we installed a wireless fence around our yard, and it's probably a ½ acre. It's a nice size, so she has plenty of room to run hard. And she wears this electric collar, and it buzzes, so she knows to stay away from the edge of the road. When we installed it, the woman who installed it, who owned the Dog Watch Company, that's the name brand of the franchise, she came, and I loved her energy. And she was an entrepreneur. She owned her own company, and she had just moved to Florida with her husband. But I had heard in the back, kind of on a side note, that they had bought this business even though they were retiring to make some extra income, which told me they still needed income. And we had hit pro, probably even Master Pro 10, or we were 9s. And so our leveraged income check was so income I had never earned before. And so I was super excited, and I said, oh my gosh, this is so amazing. This business is so amazing. You have to come take a look at this. And she goes, well, if you're doing so well, then what do you need me for? And she was from New Jersey and kind of sharp with me and quick. And I was like, oh, okay, and I just kind of left it at that. But always in the back of my mind, I always thought, she might be perfect for this. She might be perfect for this because she's still an entrepreneur. And I loved her energy and personality on the phone. Fast forward, we needed to get a better collar for my dog because she was running through the fence and trying to attack little dogs.
Only little dogs. She's a bully.
She's a bully. So we got her a 4-prong collar, and we drove over to her house, and we were talking in her front yard. And it so happened we started talking about what we did for a living, and about the dog, and about the products, and then her husband came out and started talking about his overall health, which led to a meeting we had today. To make a long story longer, we met today, and we shared a vision with them. She had forgotten about our conversation. And
or I don't know if she's forgot, it just didn't make that much of an impact for her to remember it. Yeah. It certainly made an impact on Jill because it was a teaching moment, and Jill actually learned from that conversation, and she's upped her game since then, making the opportunity not so much about us, but about them.
Yes, and that was the main point, that instead of saying, oh my gosh, I'm so excited, you have to look at what we are doing to ask that question. Are you open to looking at something? You have amazing energy. You're so articulate. I love that you're an entrepreneur. So at that moment, I continued to train on this beautiful story because it was such an aha moment for me. Because when she said that, it literally jarred me and made me realize about the value of building a relationship. Thank you. And so we were sitting there wrapping up the conversation. I said, I had mentioned this opportunity to you about 6 years ago. And, and, and I had done it the wrong way. I felt I had built a relationship enough to share that. And like Gabe said, it wasn't memorable. And then she goes, you know what, Jill? At that time, we were out of work. We had to dip into our 401k.
No, they cashed it in.
Yeah.
They cashed it in.
And we had bought the franchise for the Jack's Dog Watch. And so they were in a very difficult space. So when I said we are doing amazing, you have to look at what we're doing, it was almost like I wasn't being considerate because she was not in a good space.
They were trying to figure it out, like we were trying to figure out when we enrolled in 2009. So it was such an aha moment for Jill and I today.
So a beautiful story that's come full circle in terms of aha moments and learning how to approach, learning how to continue to follow up, and coming full circle. They bought the Tri-Synergizer today, and I think they're very interested in the opportunity because there's still not a light at the end of the tunnel. They have 4 children, all college age. So with that.
Well, what was interesting is they bought the Vitality Stack for each of them, not the Tri-Synergizer. Yeah. But what was just an aha moment for all of us was making the example. If we would have done it right the first time, she would have jumped on immediately because they were doing whatever they could to keep their noses above the water.
So my mentors used to tell me this, we have a responsibility to approach the correct way and following the system, not your way that you've done for 40 years in your other profession, but following the system of building relationship, asking if they're open and sharing a tool and then giving them to a third party. So
we're not done yet with the story.
No.
So what's really, really surprising is before we had left, after we've already enrolled them on the Vitality Stacks, is setting a date up for not only both of them, but also their son, who just graduated from college, and all 3 of them want to look at what Jill and I are doing today. So fortune is in the follow-up. All right. And from our perspective, just because the relationship that Jill solidified with them throughout these years with the invisible fence and needing something more, it was really cool to see it come. Yeah, the come full circle today. So
and Gabe mentioned our children. I know we've mentioned this on a couple calls. We have both our children are now of age, and they're both involved in our business. So it's really amazing. So now it's legacy, like we talk about legacy. A couple housekeeping tips. Anything else to add?
No, that it's just, I'm telling you, this is not the end of the story, because they will be on as our guests here in the near future as New Life Vantage distributors, vouching for this story that we've been talking about.
Just a couple housekeeping tips, and then we're going to bring Elite Pro 8 Bob Triglia on the line. Remember about Cabo, there's been a change of date. So make sure you mark your calendar. I know everybody's running for this. This is the month you need to start making sure you get in that pool this month, April, May, and June, if you have not gotten into that pool yet. Because you need you need 3 points in that pool. Anything else on that Cabo trip, Dave?
Just if you want another exposure to help you receive those points, Wednesday night, I will be doing an opportunity webinar for one of Rebecca Glasser's new distributors in New Jersey. If you're interested and you want that link, I believe I've sent the link to our elites. So go to your elite if you're within our organization and get that link if you need another exposure for this month.
And then also Elite Academy in July. Let's start thinking about ideas to pull teams together again. Also, there are 100 of the personal care line bundles left. I'm excited to get ours, aren't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so you basically get a EA registration for free when you buy that bundle, and only 100 of those left. I just text my account manager on that. So now I am so excited. We've known this gentleman over 20 years. He was initially one of our clients. His wife was,
Yeah.
right? A very, very successful businessman here in Jacksonville, Florida, and still is. He has a spirit like no other, and this will be reflected tonight. And one of our dearest friends we've ever had in our lives, and an incredible leader of teams around the globe, Elite Pro 8, Bob Triglia. Bob, you there?
I am here, Jill. Gabe, how are you? Can you guys see me?
Yeah.
Thank you for joining us
Oh,
tonight.
absolutely. I would not miss it. I'm so excited to be here on the Zoom with you guys tonight. And I don't know. I mean, I know I've said this to you guys, and I know Sissy feels the same way. I don't know that there's words enough to say how deeply grateful that we are that Gabe and that you actually approached us. I mean, it changed our lives dramatically. I mean, I can't even put it into words. But I'm so excited to be here, and I'm so excited about the topic. I mean, stories, because I mean, stories sell. And I think back to my story, and I got a crazy one, and you guys know a lot of it. And I've had people say, you need to write a book or do a movie or something, because
I think you have a couple on deck.
I'm gonna tell you right now, the truth is stranger than fiction.
Okay, he's got all those one-liners too, so pay attention and write them
I'm
down.
setting my clock because I want to be really respectful of everybody's time. And you know, we tell our stories, and the reason I think, for me, I think the biggest thing about our story is because every single one of us has got a story. And I hope tonight, when I share my story, that you will find your story in it. I mean, there are bumps, there are bruises, you know what? And everybody's bumps and bruises may look a little bit different, but I can tell you, I think the one thing they all share, at least for me personally, is there's a certain degree of hopelessness in that story. For me, there was, and I'm going to get into it. And the other thing is, I want you to know the old saying, you can't judge a book by its cover, because sometimes the hopelessness and despair does not show on somebody's face. It doesn't show on their car, it doesn't show on their house, doesn't show anywhere, you know, but that hollowness inside, that whole incomprehensible demoralization that we feel like, oh my God, what am I going to do now, is there. And, you know, so hopefully when I tell my story tonight, and it's a wild one, you guys will, and I'll clean it up. I'll keep it PG. I'm sure there's a lot of people that.
Yes, share your story, because I think it's you know, it's not everybody's doom and gloom, but it shows the enormity of this opportunity.
Oh, absolutely. As you said, I mean, I've been a traditional business guy, you know, my whole life. From the time I remember my dad telling me a long time ago, he goes, "Hey, why do you want to work for yourself? Work for anybody else? Why don't you work for yourself? You count the money first, it's not counting it 5 times." So whether it be starting a lawnscaping, you know, cutting grass when I was 12, to the first business that I started in 83 and the wholesale food service arena, you know, all I knew was work, work, work. But the sad part was it was all linear work. I mean, I did something, I got paid, and then I was unemployed. And you know, after a while, I didn't realize what I was experiencing was somewhat hopelessness, because I'm thinking, I can't keep running like this. I'm seeing Gabe nodding his head. I can't keep doing this. You know, at one point, it was a little overwhelming. It was kind of fun. It was a little sexy. I mean, the money's coming in. My wife and I have been married right now 35 years. And I'm sure if you talk to her, she'll say 3 of them were pretty good. But the reality of it was, you know, something, we have 4 children that we've been blessed with that are all 14 months apart. So that was a whole other kind of stress. And my wife was at home raising them when I was out, building this business. And, you know, I got to tell you, the harder I worked, I figured I could make more time, make more time. You know what? The time never came. And then all of a sudden I realized, and I hope you hear me, I was doing a lot of the right things for a lot of the wrong reasons, and that can be very, very exhausting. And when you're exhausted and when I'm home, I mean, it breeds an underlying degree of hopelessness. And I got to tell you, I look back to 2007 when this all came down, the economy took a tank. I had what looked to be a really good business going, and we were definite victims of that. But I got to tell you, the hopelessness that I was experiencing before that was I got to tell you, it was so bad that it was almost like a relief that the economy was tanking. It almost was giving me kind of a like, holy shit, it's not, oops, excuse me, it's not me. Do you know what I'm saying? When the reality of it was me. And I didn't know how to really cope with that. And everybody does it in different ways. Some people do it with exercise. Some people do it with gambling. Me, I did it kind of with drinking. I mean, that's what it was for me, just to kind of stop the world. And, I had a habit too of kind of accessorizing my drinking when the drinking wasn't working. And the whole thing all hit at the same time. And I got to tell you, it was pretty dark. It was pretty ugly because if you're out there and you're responsible for a family and for kids, and they were in private school, they were big athletes, they were in the paper all the time. And here's dad. I don't know what we're going to do. I mean, and then when the Band-Aid was ripped off, it was pretty ugly. And I put my poor wife and our family in a situation that I'm sure they didn't plan to be in. When everything seems to be going, and all of a sudden, there's nothing there. And from a financial point of view, and unfortunately, from a mental and spiritual point of view inside, man, I was hollow. And but from the outside, hey, the house looked good, the cars looked good, the kids were in private school. I think a couple of them were actually on athletic scholarships, going to college. I mean, everything looked great, but inside I was struggling, guys. And with that said, I didn't know what to do. And thank God my family kind of stepped in, and they kind of set me somewhere to kind of get me straightened out and figure out what was going on. And I put a plug in for the old Betty Ford Foundation. It was a fantastic place to go. I got degrees from the University of Florida and the Betty Ford, and so two great establishments. But I say all that to say this, because where you are today is no indication of where you're going to be tomorrow. And Gabe spoke about systems. He spoke about the 2-minute drill. And I got to tell you, we always talk about, sports. Success is when preparation meets opportunity. Unfortunately, folks, most of us don't know an opportunity when it bites us in the fanny. And I got to tell you, when you're in a hopeless state, sometimes you can't see what's right in front of you. And I am so grateful. And I said earlier that Gabe actually reached out to us, actually reached out to Sissy first, and told him about this phenomenal opportunity with the LifeVantage company. And Sissy, like many, said she was too tired. We didn't have any money. That's a fact. We didn't have any money. And she said she didn't know anybody and couldn't sell anything. But thank God Gabe followed up with me. That's a golden nugget. He said it, follow up. He followed up with me. He showed me the link. I watched that ABC Primetime News investigative report, and I was completely blown away by what I had seen. And having a degree in chemistry, which means absolutely nothing, I just kind of understood what was going on. And I'm thinking, I knew how I'd been living, and it was more like Mick Jagger than Mother Teresa. So I figured I better get that thing inside me. And you know what? I did. Didn't have and I started thinking, and that's why I'm trying to tell folks tonight, something. If nothing changes in your world, then nothing changes. You know what? We talked about 2007, but guys, in 2001, we had something called 9/11, completely screwed up the country, right? And before that, if you're old like me, 1987, the stock market. There are things that are happening every 7 to 10 years. And guess what, guys? They're going to continue to happen. And when this happened in 2007, I had absolutely nothing to fall back on, nothing except some friendships. And I'm so grateful that Gabe reached out and showed us this opportunity. And I looked at it, and I wasn't going to let the fear of failure outweigh the excitement of success. Guys, when you're hopeless, It's just a state of mind. There's another, we talk about sports, next man up. There's another 60 seconds coming. You know, if I sit there and do nothing, then I'm pretty sure the next 60 are going to look like the last 60. So what I'm telling you is if you're sitting at the table tonight and you're not sure what's going on, it's okay. There's another 60 seconds coming. And we got a system here with a product and a company that are second to none that'll afford you the opportunity to be the biggest success you want. But I can guarantee you this, if you don't get your fanny off the bench, you're going to be sitting there looking for the next thing that's coming. I don't know if it's COVID.2. I don't know if it's the stock market. I don't know if it's the housing, but I can guarantee you something else is coming. And when it came the second time around, let me tell you, when it came the first time around, the Triglias were hanging on for dear life. My poor wife went back to work just to help us with our health insurance. It was, guys, I'm going to tell you, it was not a fun place to be. But you know what? Like everything else, it's a program of action. And with this that Gabe was talking about, our system here, what a system allows us to do is an ordinary guy like me, it allows me to do extraordinary things if I follow the system, if I get my fanny off the bench and get into the 2-minute drill. If you look at some of the games, and Gabe talked about them, the last 2 minutes of any game, there's more points scored than there are in the last 50, in the previous 58 minutes. Why is that? Because there's laser focus and there's activity. And I think what we're finding here is you just have to be laser focused, and you got to take some activity. And based on how your life is, if it's 10 minutes, if it's an hour, whatever it is, you just got to do it. You got to be consistent with doing it. And this opportunity can change your life. It has changed our life. And by that, I mean, guess what? We started to rebuild our business. We had a couple things going. You better have a couple things going in this day and world. You don't put all your eggs in one basket. I didn't coin that phrase. It's been around for a while. It's been around for a while and for a reason. So when this second pandemic hit, or when the pandemic hit the second time around, my other business, we focus on food products to theme parks, primarily Universal Studios here in Hollywood. And let me tell you something, March 14th of this year, they picked up the phone and they said, Bob, that's it. We're shutting the park down. We hope to be open in June. And guess what happened? There wasn't another order. My phone didn't ring. Nothing happened from March 14th to June 1st. And guess what? LifeVantage kept on rocking, baby. That thing just kept on going. My wife looked at me, and I can tell you this, and I say this with love, and not to impress you, but to impress upon you. There was a lot of fear going on in the world back then. And my wife and I have talked about our life never changed. And never changed. We didn't have to worry about where food was coming from. We didn't have to worry about house payments. We didn't have to worry about our kids. The money kept coming. You know why? Because we got off the bench and got in the game and followed the system. And I can tell you, when Gabe introduced me to me, the system was a couple of napkins and a pen, right, Gabe?
Exactly right.
So when people go, well, you got in early, let me tell you, you didn't want to get in early. Now is the time to get in. We've got meetings, we've got systems, we've got apps, we've got everything that I don't care how insecure you feel about your technological well-being, because you're looking at the captain of that group. Let me tell you, I can figure this out. The systems are there. And if you've got a thumb and you got a cell phone, let me tell you, the world can be your oyster. You can go as far as you want. I'm trying to get my time. That's how because I'm running over time here. But
Bob, I think you said something that needs to be said again, because it was eye-opening to me, that you said that everything on the outside might look bright and shiny, but you don't know what's going on inside the dwelling of that home. They can see nice cars, big houses, private schools. And from a position of wanting to talk to people, never assume, never prejudge, and never make a decision for somebody, right? Because Bob said it best. You never know what's going on inside the dwelling of that person's home. And
Same with us.
Same with us. I mean, and I did not approach Bob from, the standpoint of me knowing that things were going south. I approached Bob from the standpoint of, hey, I need help. And this is a family that has credibility, has integrity, knows how to build a business, has large circles of influence. I had no idea that they were experiencing the same thing that Jill and I was experiencing. So hopefully these are some nuggets within what Bob just said that you can take and you can really, pick up the phone tomorrow and call somebody that you wasn't going to call because you thought, oh, they've got a couple big cars in their garage. They're doing just fine. They don't need this business. So hopefully that was a good, that was a good learning moment. And thank you for sharing that story with us tonight.
Absolutely. And if I can, one last thing I want to say, because I know we're running short on time, and I do appreciate the opportunity. And that is, you said pick up the phone. Let me tell you something. We've got something here that can change, not only from a health point of view, but even a mental health, a financial health point of view. And if you love the people around you, deliver it with love. No agenda. You know what? We carry the message. We don't carry it out. All we do is just plant seeds, plant seeds, plant seeds, and they may germinate. Like the story you told with the dog person. We've all got a couple where we just kept dripping. We kept dripping. You know what? Because we love people. We love what this has done for us. We know what it can do for others. And I think that's the biggest frustration is you know what it can do for you and you know what it can do for them. And they sit there looking like they don't believe it. So what we are, tell your story, marry your story, embrace your story, warts and all, and get out and tell as many people as humanly possible. And you'll be surprised that you can change the world. Don't watch the news. Just do what you got to do.
Yeah. Awesome.
I love that. I love that, Bob. Thank you so much for being with us. I know you had an opportunity meeting earlier this evening, and thank you for coming on board. Gabe, you want to wrap it up?
Yeah, just real quick. Being playmakers, Bob and I, we have been strategizing and waiting for the right time to really get Jacksonville back on the map after this pandemic. So next Tuesday night will be our not tomorrow, but the following Tuesday night will be our first, get together in-home opportunity meeting at Bob and Sissy's Triglia's home. So if you're in the Jacksonville surrounding areas, just hit me up, hit Jill up, hit Bob or Sissy up. We can give you their home address. We'd love to see you there. And if you're ready to rock and roll with us, Bob and I are doing LifeVantage 2.0. We're going to give it one last run and have a good time doing it.
Love it. Love it. And just, if you're on Facebook again tonight, drop in the comment box your teammates' names so they can watch this replay. What a beautiful story, Bob. Thank you again for sharing. And to all of you, thank you for being on and listening, and go out and be the exception and make connect and make an impact.
We'll see you next Monday night on the 2-minute drill. Thanks, Bob.
Thank you,
Gabe and Jill. Have a great night, guys.
Great night.
Bye-bye.